Hello and welcome back to my podcast. This is episode 2, and today's episode is getting to know me. And the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to share the story of me. My name is E.M.D. I am a writer, author, self-published on Amazon, and I am also a content creator known under the name Light in the Dark 123. And this is my story. So back when I was 12 years old, I was a young athlete. I played softball, I also did triathlons, and so in training to be able to do all those things, growing up, I would run. And now on this one day in April, I decided to go for a run around sunset, and as I was running, there was a dog whose tail had gotten hit in the door by one of the young children that was living with the dog, and this alerted and scared the dog. The dog came out into the street where I was, and I froze in place, and the dog, even though I stopped, attacked me. And he jumped up on my face and took out 2 centimeters of my bottom lip. And he wasn't done there. He got back down after tugging that part off and jumped back up. And this time I tried to cover myself with my arm, and in the process I have a puncture wound on my arm, and he went down my face and kind of left a little claw mark. That was when I was 12. I was rushed to the ER and was told that I would have to have lip reconstruction surgery. The doctor did not meet with me that first night. Thankfully, my aunt knew somebody at the Children's in Minneapolis and was able to get me in to see him. I went in to see him and was told this is the surgery I was going to take. It's one that is very close to the one that they do for children who have cleft lips. And my life had been turned on its head. I was afraid and scared. I didn't want to run. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't even want to leave. I was scared that if I left my house, I was going to get hurt. Now, a couple days later, after meeting with this doctor, I had the construction surgery and was left feeling pretty good. All I had is this little mark that I was left with, and it was pretty red. I started going back to school and had many students come up to me, and my peers come up and say, oh wow, like you can't really even notice anymore. And it was really hard for me to hear that at the time because I could still see it and it was still really fresh in my mind. The wound hadn't healed. It may have healed on the outside, but inside it hadn't healed. And so, due to these events, I ended up actually falling behind and becoming really depressed and suicidal. I began to self-harm and began to live in a state of mind of I didn't want to live anymore. This was also when I became a writer. It was a time when I started to express myself through other plot lines, kind of talking about my story, yet in versions that were easier to understand, easier to grasp. And when I was in 8th grade going into 9th, the summer before 9th, I was seeing a therapist for my trauma and told her I wanted to kill myself and I had a plan. She sent me into the hospital and I stayed there for about a week, and it was a shock to my life. I still didn't want to live, but I didn't want the attention that these feelings were giving me, because it wasn't positive, it was negative noticed, and I could see the pain I was putting my family and friends through. Yet I couldn't stop the thoughts, I couldn't stop the emotions, the fear, the flashbacks. At this time I was struggling with panic attacks, and I couldn't even see a dog without panicking. I would have flashbacks, and it was scary. I went into a day treatment center after 2 hospitalizations and started going to school there. And during my time there, one of my friends, one of the people I lived in with, completed suicide. Her name was Gabriella Gordy, and she was a wonderful human being. I remember when I was so down and so low, and all I wanted to do was die. I remember confiding in her, and her not leaving my side until she knew I was safe. She was a blessing in my life, and truly an angel that came to earth. After her death, I almost swore off suicide, because I finally understood what it was like to be on the other side of it. I didn't want my family to go through that, or my friends. Yet at this point, I'd already burned many bridges and many relationships. So I was left all alone with many relationships that I had to repair, and not all of them were there when I was ready to heal. Yet I still hold out hope that one day those friendships that were there and were valuable and were cherished, I hope and pray that they'll come back one day, and that we can reunite and remember the good things. Anyways, back to the story. I then was able to get out of treatment and went back to normal high school, and it just wasn't working. I didn't feel motivated to go to school. I didn't feel motivated to do anything. And so then I had a friend from church. They invited me to their school called SPCPA, or more well known as St. Paul Conservatory for Performing Artists. And I applied for the musical theater track, and I got accepted, and I went in. To be fair, most people do get accepted into their program, so I was a little nervous, and I understood this, so I was like, I have to prove myself, I have to show how good I am, but at the same time I was like, I just want to do art because it makes me happy. And so this was when I really got into my musical endeavors. This is where I learned to sing. This is where I learned to write music. I wrote a few of my first songs, which I have no record of, when I was just playing around with the piano. And I moved forward in my life. I was still going to therapy and was doing what I could to get better. And I was getting healthier to some extent. At the same time, I had recently gotten into a relationship that I was in for about 4 years, and things didn't work out for us. We moved in together and we lived together at my parents' house. And I think doing that at 17 was really fast for me personally, and I lost out on some growth, on some individual growth. I was so focused on my relationship and making sure that worked that my school and everything kind of got put to the side a little bit. Eventually, however, things changed, and I started to realize that I needed to take care of myself. I needed to get up and go to the gym. I needed to start loving myself again. And over the past 4 years, I've been exercising and getting myself back on track, learning how to cook, learning how to live on my own, and getting my first full-time job and providing for myself, and also working on my relationships and learning how to be a better communicator, learning how to speak out and also express myself fully with good intention and with putting good into the world. And yeah, that kind of brought me along this path. And then I was dating this guy for a little bit, and he introduced me to a Socratic seminar where I went and talked with others about philosophy, subjects, and theories, and I realized how much of a passion I had for it. I had talked to a few people about philosophy, but I never sat down with people who are philosophy majors and really dove into the topics. We talked about death, and we talked about how different religions or practices, how they celebrate death or how they don't celebrate death. And I found myself enamored with the subject. And now I'm no longer with that partner, and so I haven't gone to the Socratic seminar. Yet the philosophy has stuck with me, and I've brought it into my work, into my job. I did moral reasoning with the teenage girls I counsel, and I've really seen growth in moral understanding, which I think is quite high quality of a person. When you have moral understanding and reasoning, you're more likely to make the highest decision for all and not just yourself, possibly. Obviously, different morals, different philosophies, different outcome. So it's wishy-washy, timely-wimey, wibbly-wobbly, wibbly-wobbly, timely-wimey. If you understand what I was just going through in my head, leave a comment below with the actual phrase. If you understand, if you know where that's from, show me you're out there, show me you're real. And yeah, so that's a little bit on my backstory. I think I mentioned a little bit earlier, for a long time I used writing as a coping skill to express those emotions and express those things I was going through. And for many years, after the beginning of the events in middle school. When I got to high school, writing kind of fell away a little bit, and once I graduated, I still continued to write, but I wasn't trying to make anything. And then recently, in this past year or two, I've really put myself back into my writing, and that's when I wrote This Is the Beginning. And I wrote my first poetry book. I wrote my first poetry book and shared it with my loved ones, shared it with my friends, and I got amazing support from the people that were in my immediate circle. I haven't yet hit the huge market where there's a bunch of people. I still haven't met Mel Robinson or Jay Shetty yet. One day I'd love to meet them. I'd love to get the opportunity to talk with them and to really dive inside our minds and our moral reasoning and really what's important about life and all that we have to offer. Yeah. So I wrote that book, and then I also do photography a little bit. So in the next book, I decided to add on to my poetry, adding photography, and I did that with the third book as well. And I'm also a painter. I do that a little bit. I really like to dabble in all the arts. I find them to be all very expressive, and some I'm better at than others, some I could have a lot of work on. And that's okay, because it's not about being perfect, it's about expressing and being able to express yourself for who you are and for all that you are, and sharing it with the world, sharing your love, sharing your light, and hoping that it'll reach the right people. And yeah. So I've gone through a lot in my life. I've gone through ups and downs. I've gone through hills and valleys. And yet, throughout all of that time, I'm going to bring it back around to God. He was there through all of that. And I wouldn't have made it to where I am today without him. And if you look on my channel, you'll see that I've done lessons about his scriptures and his knowledge and his love for us. And him and many other spiritual teachers have so much love, wisdom, encouragement to give us that I truly believe that they are real and that they love us, and they are from a divine place. They are from a place that is called to uplift you, called to bring you into balance, to peace and harmony. And that I believe in our day and age, we can come to a place of unity. Yet it takes you. It takes you taking accountability for you and for being you and being open and being receptive to others and to growth, and to not only listen, but to listen to understand. And I truly believe if we become a world of listening to understand and not always needing to respond or react, we will become a world that is more light and more loving, more content with where we are. Because we have come a long way. No, we're not where we need to be yet, but we're exactly where we are. And God has a plan for what's ahead, and he is going to help us get there. He's going to help us to conquer every fear, every doubt, every lie that resonates inside your being. He's moving to remove those, to vanquish them, to remove them from existence. Yet you have to believe in the divine. You have to believe that the good is coming and that the good is here and it's now and it's in your present, and that you are loved, and that those around you care for you, and you have a support system and you have people to care for you, and how truly loved you are. And as a community, it's our responsibility to love one another, to spread the message of love and peace, of harmony, of listening to understand. I hear you. I know you. I see you. My sister, my brother, my friend. You are forever loved, and you are forever light. Keep shining bright. Until next time, my friend.